The desire to be great is a human pursuit, and there is nothing wrong with that. There is embedded in every man a DNA of greatness. It was God Himself who planted it in us. We were made in the image and likeness of God. So if God is a great God, you should expect that His children will be great too. But this greatness that is in us must be nurtured if we must express it in its full glory. To seek greatness or an expression of it is not wrong at all. But the means through which we seek it can be a problem. There is a right path and also a wrong path to greatness. It is very important that you know this, so that what you think to be an exercise of greatness may not be an effort in futility. During His earthly ministry, the disciples of Jesus engaged in a disagreement over who was the greatest amongst them. This came after the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came and made a special request to Jesus that her boys should sit by His side when He assumes His throne of glory. Jesus had to address His disciples. It was in this address that He pointed out to us one of the paths to greatness. But Jesus called them to Himself and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles have absolute power and lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them, tyrannizing them. It is not this way among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your willing and humble slave." Matthew chapter 20 verse 25 to 27. An excessive exercise of power is not a true demonstration of greatness. In other words, you do not need power to become great. The use of force, coercion, or tyranny is never the indices to show greatness. It may work with the people of the world. The history books are replete with examples of such men and women who were full of authority and exercised power in reckless abandon. Sadly, they are named great in some quarters. Examples of such men are Adolf Hitler of Germany, Pol Pot of Cambodia, Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union. They used force to exert their greatness. What they failed to understand is the use of force is false greatness. It is quite an irony that Jesus' prescription for anyone who wants to become great is contrary to that being espoused by the motivational speakers and influencers of today. While the greatness teachers of today are asking us to lord it over our subordinates if we must become great, Jesus is asking us to serve the people who are our subordinates. What Jesus was saying in essence is that true greatness is defined by service. Great people are people who serve others. You must eschew that school of thought that tells you that if you must be great, you must have people hovering all around you to serve you. A man called Howard Hunters taught that true greatness comes not from worldly success, but from thousands of little deeds of service and sacrifice that constitutes the giving or losing of one's life for others and for the Lord. You were created for significance and greatness. True significance begins the day you accept and believe in your heart of hearts that God has chosen you out of a multitude and that He has looked across the horizon of human history and set you apart for Himself. Throughout the Bible, the voice of God seeks to remind us again and again of who we are and the great value and confidence He has placed in us. And because of that, He wants us to exercise our greatness by serving our gifts to the world. Aside the path of service, you must be willing to tread on the path of humility. It was C.S. Lewis who gave us one of the most beautiful definitions of humility. Lewis wrote that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. They truly humbly make it a habit to always put others first, and not because they see themselves as insignificant, but because they recognize the worth of every other person out there. The Bible tells us in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 6 to embrace the virtue of humility. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God. Set aside self-righteous pride, so that he may exalt you to a place of honor in his service at the appropriate time. Do you really want to be great? If yes, then you must set aside the raiment of pride and be clad with the garments of humility. The result of humility is that God will raise you up, exalt you to greatness. The antithesis of humility is pride. God abhors pride in all of its forms. He resists proud people. His eyes are always on the lookout for humble people, so that he can make them great. When God sees an iota of pride in you, he ignores you and exalts the humble. Again, the path to greatness is not usually a fast-paced path. When you rush yourself into the spotlight of greatness, you are preparing yourself for your death. In God's calendar of your life, there is an appointed time to attain greatness. Resist the temptation to run ahead of God, to make yourself what he has not made you yet. There is time for everything. When it is your time to take the center stage and dominate the limelight, nothing can stop you. No one can hinder you. Just be patient and wait for your time. Finally, as you do your best to attain greatness, never forget that God will always send people your way to assist you. The way of greatness is filled with lots of good people. In your attempt to get to the top, do not step on them. Be kind to the people you meet on your way up, because you will surely need them on your way down.